doctora.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I will be speaking in English. And as Anna said, my name is Maria Victoria Sule, and I am a researcher and a special scientist at the CUT Language Center and a postdoctoral researcher at the CUT Department of Multimedia and Graphic Arts. During this presentation, I will briefly describe the EPOS project, and we will have an introduction to internationalization at home. We will see some examples of internationalization at home that were implemented around the world. And we will concentrate on three modalities of internationalization at home that are in-campus initiative, internationalization of the curriculum, and virtual exchange initiatives. We will also see some challenges that you need to consider when or if you implement internationalization at home practices. And we will also see the reported benefits for these practices. We will finalize with an overview of some resources that were developed under the EPOS project, mainly the EPOS toolkit and the recently created community of practice. So I've been talking about the EPOS project. What is the EPOS project? Well, the EPOS project is part of the Cyprus University of Technology Postdoctoral Research Excellence Innovation Program, or Metadidactor in Greek. The project was funded for 12 months for a year, started in September 2022, and it will finish in August 2023. And the project pertains to the CUT Department of Multimedia and Graphic Arts. Dr. Andri Ioannou is the project supervisor, and Dr. Antigoni Parmaxi and Dr. Anna Nicolaou are the quality control experts in this project. So why the EPOS project? Well, international student mobility has been a key component in higher education programs. But as we all know, the arrival of the global pandemic of COVID-19 generated one of the most severe worldwide education disruption in history. And this, of course, also affected study abroad programs, which were restructured or even canceled, leaving students with less international higher education opportunities. Internationalization at home emerged, or as we will see, re-emerged in this context as an alternative to physical mobility. Besides the specific context of COVID-19, it is important to stress that internationalization at home promotes inclusiveness, particularly for students with disabilities, or students who are hesitant to go abroad for several reasons, including the economic ones. And internationalization at home can be integrated into blended intensive programs, BIP or BIP, to provide a more flexible mobility scheme. This kind of programs are a new format of the Erasmus Plus mobility scheme, which combines online teaching with a short period of physical mobility. So again, why the EPOS project? Well, in the Cypriot context, the EPOS project was formulated to explore the post-pandemic educational landscape in the Republic of Cyprus, particularly in relation to internationalization at home, and to examine whether academic staff from Cypriot universities were prepared to introduce internationalization at home practices, to analyze their needs, and to support them in the implementation of those practices. Well, in terms of the project work packages and deliverables, the EPOS project has 4 work packages. And today I will be concentrating on the second one, which is internationalization at home, an analysis of state-of-the-art in the Cyprus higher education system. So work package 2 has 3 main activities, and the examples and case studies that we will see today derive from a systematic literature review. This work package has also a desk search activity, which is dedicated to analyzing internationalization practices and internationalization at home practices at the universities in the Republic of Cyprus, both at public and private institutions in Cyprus. And it also has a survey and interviews that are aimed to identify the academic staff's needs in terms of internationalization at home practices. So I have been talking about internationalization at home. What is internationalization at home? Well, let's situate us in its origins, okay? According to the literature, internationalization at home emerged in Europe in the late 1990s out of the concern that internationalization of the higher education system was leaving out the non-mobile majority. This is those students who couldn't travel. As we saw before, this non-mobile majority are students that for several reasons, including the economic ones or disabilities, cannot go abroad. So during this period, internationalization at home was understood as all activities in the fields of education that were related to international affairs other than the movement of students abroad. So some definitions that were provided over the years are, for example, this one, the first one that you can see here by Walker, who says that the internationalization at home is the attempt to move beyond mobility and into curricular internationalization and into internationalization of higher education institutions. The second definition that you have here is by the renowned scholars in the field of internationalization, Billing and List, and they claim that internationalization at home is not an aim or a didactic concept in itself, but, and pay attention here, rather a set of instruments and activities at home that aim to develop international and intercultural competencies in all students. And one more very well-known definition in a book chapter where Joss Billing and L.F. Jones discuss the exact meaning of internationalization at home. After revising its evolution for 20 years, they came up with this definition, which is one of the most cited in every study dealing with internationalization at home. They say, internationalization at home is the powerful integration of international and intercultural dimensions into the formal and informal curriculum for all students within domestic learning environment, okay? So here I have highlighted 4 important, let's say, keywords: international, intercultural dimensions, formal and informal curriculum. We will see how we can apply all these within the domestic learning environment. So some teaching practices help students to develop intercultural understanding, as Billing and Jones were saying, are, for example, internationalization of the curriculum, open access education, intercultural research projects, extracurricular activities, relationships and collaboration with domestic students and ethnic or minority community groups, as well as foreign students, integration of foreign students and academics into campus activities, and of course, delivering courses in foreign languages. According to Barbosa et al., internationalization at home comprises several modalities. And in this presentation, we will focus on in-campus modality along with internationalization of the curriculum and virtual exchange that is also known as telecollaboration, collaborative online international learning, COIL, e-tandem, and online intercultural exchange. These are the definitions that are provided by Robert O'Dow in his latest book. So we will move now to some examples that can illustrate all these concepts that I've been mentioning. And the examples that I will present are a selection of best practices from a systematic literature review of an initial corpus of 550 manuscripts that were published between 2018 and 2022. I will not illustrate all 500 case studies, but some of them, okay? So we will start with the in-campus initiatives, and I will show you two examples for this modality. The first example or case study is from Hofmeier, and in this study located in Japan, 164 students, domestic and international students of engineering, management and area studies were involved in different activities aiming at fostering intercultural interaction. This initiative lasted for 2 semesters and included formal and informal activities, such as language exchange programs, buddy systems, shared dormitories with both domestic and international students, cooperative workshops, and mixed study groups. So, okay, so how was this implemented? Okay, in this table, we can see 3 types of initiatives that were implemented outside the classroom. The first one is the residential program, where the intercultural interaction took place informally in the format, for example, of shared dormitories with both domestic and international students, as I was showing you in the previous slide. The second type is the formal extracurricular program with an intentional intercultural component facilitated by a university faculty or staff in the format of language exchange programs or buddy systems or mixed study groups. And the third type is the informal extracurricular program with no intentional intercultural component. And this can take place in the format of regular sports or cultural clubs. And it's important here to notice that this kind of initiative is managed or supervised by the students themselves. The second example for in-campus initiatives is from Barbosa et al. And this is an initiative that took place in Portugal with 25 Portuguese students and 12 international students of the bachelor's degree in marketing attending a business English course. The aim of this initiative was to develop intercultural competencies through formal and informal interaction during a semester. So how this was implemented? There were specific assignments, and both local and international students work collaboratively on a diverse set of issues such as the complexity and interdependence of business settings, the role of judgment and misconceptions on personal relationships, for example, the notion of space and distance, the self and its place in the global society, the use of body language, and the consciousness of time, amongst others. Students were provided, in this case, with a text on internationalization of companies, and the student had to consider globalization in a business context and to be aware of other ways of acting and thinking. And finally, students gave oral presentations on cultural differences to discuss the importance of these factors for the success of a business and productivity of companies. So, well, according to the authors of this case study, these assignments contributed to teamwork, critical thinking, content analysis, communication, linguistic proficiency in English, reflection on the complexity and interdependence of business settings. Okay, so we move now to the second modality that I mentioned at the beginning, which is internationalization of the curriculum. And here we have an example of a statistic course in this study from Mittelmeier et al. 428 students, undergraduate students of business were involved. This initiative aimed at encouraging computer-supported collaborative learning through the internationalization of the academic content with the use of the World Bank EdStats online database. And this initiative lasted for a period of 6 months, okay? So, how this initiative was implemented? First, problem-based learning curriculum was adopted. This approach allowed students to work in group to find a solution for a problem. They work with their peers both in person and online. Students work with content and case studies that are international in scope and are explicitly taught skills for communicating and collaborating with diverse peers. The classes in these programs were fully taught in English, and the participants were assigned to a weekly computer lab. And finally, the students, the resources used in this initiative was the World Bank EdStats online database, as I mentioned before. And this was used to explore real-world education statistics. And the students also compare working with local versus internationalized online content. The second example from this modality, from the internationalization of the curriculum modality, belongs to Pushkarna et al. This is a case study compared to the previous one with 28 undergraduate law students, and it lasted for a semester. It was based in Hong Kong, and the aim of the initiative was to foster global and digital savvy law students through the internet and the law course. This was the title of the course. And the instructor used the student as a producer approach. During this initiative, a student had the opportunity to collaborate with external organizations and to use as well digital tools. How was implemented this initiative? Well, first, the course was delivered with a combination of traditional and innovative teaching methods, including lectures and guest lectures, both in person and remotely online, and the students' participations. Students, again, as in the previous example, work on problem-solving case studies with the use of Google Docs. Students gave oral presentations on independent research topics. And in terms of the resources used, besides Google Docs, students worked with content from the Cyrilla project, which is a global initiative that seeks to map and analyze the evolution and impacts of legal frameworks on digital environments, and cover jurisdiction in Latin America, Asia, Africa, and the Arab League. So here we have the international component. But as you can see here, students also created contributions based on Hong Kong law. Remember that this case study is based in Hong Kong. And they contributed to the open access internet law textbook entitled Governing the Internet, which was hosted on the Wikijuris website, okay? And this is our open access textbook and mainly contain material on internet law in Australia. So the students were based in Hong Kong, but they contributed to a textbook, an open access textbook based in another country, in Australia, in this case. And here you can see some images from these two resources, the open access textbooks, Wikijuris, and as well of the Cyrilla project, the open database. So we move now to the final examples of internationalization at home in the virtual exchange modality. The first example is from Israel. And as you can see here, in this kind of initiative, the location usually, not always, but usually takes place in more than one country. Here it was implemented between Canada and Denmark. In this study, 24 undergraduate nursing students participated in the exchange, and this initiative had two aims. The first one was to increase opportunities for students to develop cultural awareness and culturally safe nursing care, and to enable nursing students to collaborate and complete a clinically oriented assignment using an innovative strategy called globally network learning. So let's see how they implemented this, how this study took place. Okay, first, students were placed in groups of 4, 2 Canadian and 2 Danish students per group. Then the activities involved an iterative process of discussion between the students to create a plan, followed by individual work, and then reconnecting to compare findings. Students then identify a health challenge that they would focus upon. For example, living with diabetes or dementia. And the type of interview questions that they would ask their respective patients from their home country. They will encounter this patient during clinical placement. Students also explored the health service available in local and or national systems for persons living with the health challenge that we said, for example, diabetes or dementia. And students also use the peer review scholarly literature to search for a nursing intervention that would support the restoration of health or enhance quality of life for persons living with that health challenge. And in terms of the resources, the students connected as a group of 4 using an internet-based application of their choosing, for example, Skype, FaceTime, or Google Docs. And they compare and contrast the lived experience of the Canadian and the Danish patients, and the 2 health systems as well. Finally, students presented their chosen evidence-based strategies to one another, and then came to consensus on which strategies would be feasible in both countries. Another example that we have here of virtual exchange belongs to Fernandez-Raga and Villard. This is a case study of applied physics and measurement, engineering, and electrical engineering, in which 24 students participated for 2 semesters. This study, as you can see, combines more than one discipline, and it took place in 2 countries, France and Spain. The aim of the initiative was to help students to get a better insight into water shortage issues by imagining a cheap, eco-friendly watering system for a shared garden, and to improve students' communication skills by working in English and to work with an international team. Study to highlight that the students work on their own because of the different academic calendars. We will see this soon in the challenges of this kind of initiatives. In the case of the University of León, started earlier, and the Institute of Technology in Bordeaux started later. That's why the project ran from October to May. This initiative was organized in 2 different steps. In the first one, the French students work on their own by doing some research on water consumption in general, and by trying to find innovative, eco-friendly watering systems. Then the Spanish cohort work on their own, creating scale models of the irrigation systems and testing them. After that, the French students presented their ideas and progress to the Spanish peers. And together, they decided on some ideas to improve the projects. After the presentations, a project-based learning activity was proposed to the students, who had to decide on a challenge or improvement of the project that they would like to develop together. In terms of the resources, as you can see, again, here we are using very friendly user tools. Zoom was used for the presentations, and then each group of students was allowed to use any available tools such as WhatsApp, videos, Google Docs, Zoom, Skype, Trello, or any other means they found relevant. The last example, okay, that we will see today is from 2, as you can see in the title, 2 completely different fields, dental technology and business management. This study from BAHET is an initiative between the United States and South Africa, in which 35 students participated. And compared to the previous case studies that we saw, this one lasted only for 1 month. In terms of the aims of this initiative, well, the first one was to develop a prototype to reduce material wastage in dental laboratories, and to foster the acquisition of discipline-specific knowledge, to develop cross-cultural awareness, and to use various technology-mediated tools. So how was implemented this activity? Well, in this table, you can see the distribution of activities per week. Remember that this initiative lasted only for 1 month. So in the first week, it included an icebreaker activity where students had to describe, sorry, their background and share their interest by creating introductory 4-minute videos using VoiceThread. And then they work on a collaborative business plan project. They have to discuss the concepts of environmental scans, develop the methodology for a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for, as you know, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. They also need to identify the 4 Ps of marketing. The 4 Ps are product, price, promotion, and place. And they had to contrast them against the 4 Ps of digital dental technology. They also had to identify competitors, discuss whether the concept or product is economically feasible, and identified the SWOT of developing a prototype. And in the last week, students reflect on the overall project experience. As you can imagine, the implementation of internationalization at home comes with specific challenges. Okay, so we will see the reported challenges, the challenges that were reported in the case studies that we saw, and other case studies from the systematic literature review that I mentioned at the beginning. So first, there are the technical challenges. This could be the case of, for example, low experience or unfamiliarity of students with certain tools. Then you can have the pedagogical challenges that are related, for example, with different syllables, if it's a joint project, or the assessment process as well. Time zone differences, mainly in the virtual exchange modality, as we saw, for example, in the dental technology and business management project, with one university in the United States and the other in South Africa. The time zone difference was a challenge. There are also intercultural challenges. These challenges deals with different perceptions towards the attitudes of counterpart groups. For example, it could be the misunderstandings encountered during collaborations. The different actions of specific groups can be perceived as a sign of disrespect or by the other group. We have communication problems, again, particularly for the virtual exchange modality. Each university might rely on different platforms for communication, and this could be a problem. Languages. There could be significant differences in knowledge and English language skills among the students. There are also organizational challenges, and this includes obstacles in developing and funding bidirectional programming of students, for example, from both high and lower income countries. And there are also internal challenges, which involve factors related to the personal attitudes of participants engaged in internationalization at home practices, such as difficulties of working together. For example, accepting that not everyone might contribute equally, that could be a problem. But of course, there are some or a lot of benefits. So these benefits can be summarized in 4 main categories. The first one, intercultural sensitivity. Internationalization at home initiatives provide students with a broader global perspective and an appreciation of the importance of culturally sensitive education. Another benefit is collaboration. students' enthusiasm towards collaboration, international collaboration, small groups activities, debates, and the international synchronous sessions that enable their interaction with lecturers and peers. Digital literacy. Students benefit from the digital skills gained during the implementation of internationalization-at-home activities. And finally, the discipline-specific literacies. Students gain a good understanding of the content of the specific disciplines that would have not been possible without the implementation of internationalization-at-home practices. So here, as you can see in this slide, is the website, the project website. I think is one of my colleagues is sharing with you the link in the chat. You can take a look at this site. All the content of this presentation is available in the project website. Particularly in the EPOS toolkit, under the case study section, where you can find a range of examples from different disciplines, not just the one that we saw today, but there are more. I will show you soon. And here in this website, you can also access the, as I mentioned at the very beginning, the recently created EPOS community of practice, which is intended to be a space to interact with colleagues from around the world and to exchange ideas on how to implement internationalization-at-home practices. So let me show you a little bit, if you can. Here is the toolkit. And if you scroll down here, you have, for example, the case studies, information about different webinars, testimonials, where soon we will be uploading videos about experts talking about internationalization at home and its different modalities. And before the end of the project, there will be here as well internationalization at home guideline. Let me show you a little bit about the different case studies that you can see here. For example, you have the ones that we saw today, but there are more. So if you click on one of them, for example, here in languages, it will take you to the specific reference of this case study, the modality where it was located, the number of participants, the aim of this initiative, and the various steps of how this initiative took place, how it was implemented, as well as the resources used to implement this initiative and the challenges that were reported by that specific study. And as I was saying before, here we have the community of practice, which you can access by clicking here. And it will take you to this space where it was recently created, as I said, 1 week ago. Right now we have 41 members, but we hope that this community will grow in the future. And it's a space where resources are shared, such as videos, or we aim that this is a space where you can also interact, okay? Not just post resources, but you can interact with your colleagues. So I will close this, and coming back to the presentation, these are our resources. And I don't know if there are some questions on the chat, but before you leave, I will kindly ask you, I think, yes, somebody will share this link with you. This is the last things I would kindly ask you, if you could please provide us with a few anonymous, of course, answers to the brief questions of this feedback questionnaire. And I promise that it won't take you more than 2 minutes. of your time. And the aim of this feedback questionnaire is to help me to make a better Internationalization at Home webinar next time. So here are the references, and thank you for being here and for your attention. I think I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Victoria. I have shared both links in the chat, your website and the feedback form.
Thank you. I don't know if there are any specific questions, if you want to ask something maybe related to your specific field of education, which, as I can see now, for most of you is languages. But if you want to ask something, please go ahead.